So Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are looking to come into the federal government and just wipe out a bunch of jobs. And my sincerest wish is that the jobs that get wiped out are from Trump supporters. I'm just putting that out there. I really hope that they get what they voted for. And best wishes to all of the rest of the people. But I'm really, really sincerely hoping that the federal jobs that get destroyed are of MAGA people only. MAGA people only and first. All right, so this article from Fortune. Elon Musk is planning a rude awakening for 94% of federal workers by monitoring their every move. Leon Tusk and Vivek Ramaswamy, two billionaire entrepreneurs and new Trump administration advisors, are making bold promises. Namely, this week, the duo told Congress that through their advisory board, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, they will reduce government waste by $2 trillion. The catch? Those savings will come through nixing federal employees' ability to work remotely. A particularly vocal advocate of DOGE is Joni Ernst, the Republican senator from Iowa, whose office released a 60-page report decrying the prevalence of remote work in government jobs. Growing up on a farm, I know what working from home really means. But in Washington, working from home apparently means having a field day. If bureaucrats want to be out of the office so badly, we can make that wish come true by putting them out to pasture for good. Ernst, who chairs the Senate DOGE caucus, claimed in a report that just 6% of federal workers actually work in person full time. That 94% segment is who Musty and Ramaswamy are zeroing in on. I accidentally called him Musk. I meant to say Musty. If you exclude security guards and maintenance personnel, the number of government workers who show up in person and do 40 hours a week, 40 hours of work a week is closer to 1%. Almost none, Musty wrote on X, linking to a New York Post write-up of Ernst's report. Literally thousands of empty buildings, not just in America, but around the world, paid for with your tax dollars, Musty wrote in a follow-up post on X. Per the Daily Mail, Ernst is sponsoring a DOGE-related bill titled the Remote Act, which will permit software to monitor bureaucrats' computer use and require agency reports on the adverse impacts of telework. Literally, they are pushing for legislation to be Big Brother and spy on y'all. The software proposed in the bill will be, at its core, a tracking device. Per the Mail, it will periodically review the network traffic generated by each such teleworking employee, tally up the average number of logins each employee makes, count how long they spend online, and also collect any generated network traffic. Tracking history. The tracking is hardly a new phenomenon, particularly among CEOs anxious about losing control of their remote-first workforce. In 2022, the New York Times reported that JP Morgan, Barclays Bank, and United Health Group all track employees, monitoring how long it takes them to write an email and each individual keystroke. Musty, in particular, has made no secret of his distaste for remote work or flexible work of any kind. In his capacity as CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, as well as the owner of Twitter. In 2022, Musty told Tesla employees in a company email he expected them to report into the office 40 hours per week, or we will assume you have resigned. And one of his first moves after purchasing X in 2022 was to threaten layoffs for any workers who refused to come into the office, claiming remote workers were just pretending to work and insisting that any workers desiring flexible options run their requests by him personally. On Thursday, Musk and Ramaswamy attended several closed-door meetings, ABC reported, with a smattering of Republican congresspeople and senators in an attempt to garner support for their plan. The RTO defenders, the businessmen who President-elect Donald Trump selected to lead an external advisory board called the Department of Government Efficiency, attended several closed-door meetings with GOP senators and House members to sell their plans to cut as much as $2 trillion from the federal budget of what they called waste. In a November op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, Musty and Ramaswamy wrote that mass headcount reductions across the federal bureaucracy will be the main way of cutting trillions in costs. Requiring federal employees to come into the office 5 days a week would result in a wave of voluntary terminations that we welcome, they wrote. If federal employees don't want to show up, American taxpayers shouldn't pay them for the COVID-era privilege of staying home. Ramaswamy even suggested firing 75% of federal employees. And I will reiterate my wish, my hope, and my prayer is that the MAGA voters get cut first. That is my hope and wish. The federal employees who currently are taking advantage of their work from home abilities are part of the problem of federal budget waste, Musk told lawmakers on Thursday. Many of those lawmakers agree with him. Musk's long war against remote work may reach a detente. Echoing his earlier gripes, Musk said in 2023 that working from home is as much a productivity issue as it is a moral issue, arguing desk workers shouldn't be able to enjoy the flexibility of a home office if industrial workers, like those assembling Tesla cars, and food delivery workers have to leave their homes to make a living. People should get off their goddamn moral high horse with their work from home BS, he said. The laptop class is living in La La Land. But the issue might be overblown, per a nearly 3,000-page August 2024 report from the Federal Office of Management and Budget. Roughly half of federal workers are in fully in-person roles, like healthcare and food supply inspection. Even for telework eligible roles, 60% of work performed was at an assigned job site. These figures demonstrate that the federal workforce is generally in line with the rates of on-site work performed across all sectors in the economy, as demonstrated by the independent analysis from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Nonetheless, House Speaker Mike Johnson voiced support for Musk's opinion on the matter, expressed excitement to continue working with Musk and Ramaswamy, and repeated an unsubstantiated claim that just 1% of federal workers work in person each day. Yet, Musk and Ramaswamy, for all their promises, might find themselves without much power. Musk, in particular, who stormed into Twitter and instantly fired thousands of workers after his $44 billion takeover, will lack the same abilities in the government. Doge doesn't have any power. Douglas Holtz Eakin, the former director of Congressional Budget Office and current president of the Center-Right American Action Forum, told Fortune's Jeff Colvin. They're an outside advisory group who are going to generate ideas. They are essentially a very high-profile think tank. But like I said, if anybody were to get the axe, I really hope and pray from the bottom of my heart, the deepest depth of my belly, I really hope that MAGA are impacted first and the hardest. Join the conversation. Let me know what you think about this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. So Trump has been trying to get rid of the ACA/Obamacare for a while, so we will see if this actually happens during this term. 9 states poised to end coverage for millions if Trump cuts Medicaid funding. With Donald Trump's return to the White House and Republicans taking full control of Congress in 2025, the ACA's Medicaid expansion is back on the chopping block. More than 3 million adults in 9 states would be at immediate risk of losing their health coverage should the GOP reduce the extra federal Medicaid funding that's enabled states to widen eligibility, according to KFF, a health information nonprofit that includes KFF Health News and the Georgetown University Center for Children and Families. That's because the states have trigger laws that would swiftly end their Medicaid expansions if federal funding falls. The states are Arizona, Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, Montana, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Utah, and Virginia. The 2010 Affordable Care Act encouraged states to expand Medicaid programs to cover more low-income Americans who didn't get health insurance through their jobs. 40 states and the District of Columbia agreed, extending health insurance since 2014 to an estimated 21 million people and helping drive the U.S. uninsured rates to record lows. In exchange, the federal government pays 90% of the cost to cover the expanded population. That's far higher than the federal match for other Medicaid beneficiaries, which averages about 57% nationwide. Conservative policy groups, which generally have opposed the ACA, said the program costs too much and covers too many people. Democrats say Medicaid expansion has saved lives and helped communities by widening coverage to people who could not afford private insurance. The wild thing is, it says the program costs too much and covers too many people. Too many people have insurance for their liking. And that's wild to me. If Congress cuts federal funding, Medicaid expansion would be at risk in all states that have opted into it, even those without trigger laws, because state legislatures would be forced to make up the difference, said Ranuka Tipernini, an associate professor at the University of Michigan's School of Public Health. Decisions to keep or roll back the expansion would depend on the politics at the state level. For instance, Michigan approved a trigger as part of its Medicaid expansion in 2013 when it was controlled by a Republican governor and legislature. Last year, with the government controlled by Democrats, the state eliminated its funding trigger. 6 of the 9 states with trigger laws, Arizona, Arkansas, Indiana, Montana, North Carolina, and Utah, went for Trump in the 2024 election. Most of the 9 states' triggers kick in if federal funding falls below the 90% threshold. Arizona's trigger would eliminate its expansion if funding falls below 80%. Montana law rolls back the expansion below 90% funding, but allows it to continue if lawmakers identify additional funding. Under state law, Montana lawmakers must reauthorize its Medicaid expansion or the expansion will end. Across the states with triggers, between 3.1 million and 3.7 million people would swiftly lose their coverage, researchers at KFF and the Georgetown Center estimate. The difference depends on how states treat people who were added to Medicaid before the ACA expansion. They may continue to qualify even if the expansion ends. 3 other states, Iowa, Idaho, and New Mexico, have laws that require their governments to mitigate the financial impact of losing federal Medicaid expansion funding, but would not automatically end expansions. With those 3 states included, about 4.3 million Medicaid expansion enrollees would be at risk of losing coverage, according to KFF. The triggers make it politically easier for state lawmakers to end Medicaid expansion because they would not have to take any new action to cut coverage, said Edwin Park, a research professor at the Georgetown University Center for Children and Families. To see the impact of trigger laws, consider what happened after the Supreme Court in 2022 struck down Roe v. Wade, and with it, the constitutional right to an abortion. Conservative lawmakers in 13 states had crafted trigger laws that would automatically implement bans in the event a national right to abortion were struck down. Those state laws resulted in restrictions taking effect immediately after the court ruling or shortly thereafter. States adopted triggers as part of Medicaid expansion to win over lawmakers skeptical of putting state dollars on the hook for a federal program unpopular with most Republicans. It's unclear what Trump and congressional Republicans will do with Medicaid after he takes office in January, but one indicator could be a recent recommendation from the Paragon Health Institute, a leading conservative policy organization led by former Trump health advisor Brian Blasey. Paragon has proposed that starting in 2026, the federal government would phase down the 90% federal match for expansion until 2034. When it would reach parity with each state's federal match for its traditional enrollees. Under the plan, states that still get ACA Medicaid expansion funding, but restrict coverage to enrollees with incomes up to the federal poverty level. Currently, to receive expansion funding, states must offer coverage to everyone up to 138% of poverty level. Daniel Dirksen, director of the Center for Rural Health at the University of Arizona, said it's unlikely Arizona would move to eliminate its trigger and make up for lost federal funds. It would be a tough sell right now, as it would put a big strain on the budget. Medicaid has been in the crosshairs of Republicans in Washington before. Republican congressional leaders in 2017 proposed legislation to cut federal expansion funding, a move that would have shifted billions in costs to states. That plan, part of the strategy to repeal Obamacare, ultimately failed. And once again, I would like to reiterate, it is my prayer, my hope, my wish that if people lose their coverage for their health care, that it is people that voted for Trump. I really hope that they get what they voted for. I really hope that the people who voted for Trump get precisely what Trump's administration is bringing. I hope they lose it first, and I hope they lose it swiftly. Join the conversation, like, comment, and share. Elon Musk has been behind a lot of misinformation that has been put out about politics. Look at this from Politico. It says Elon Tusk was behind mysterious pro-Trump super PAC that invoked Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Y'all, oh my gosh. But of course he would. Of course he would be doing this. He's like a real life supervillain. Elon Musk was the sole funder of the super PAC formed in the final weeks of the election that spent millions on ads claiming Donald Trump's position on abortion was aligned with that of the late Supreme Court Justice RBG. The $20.5 million that Musk put into the group, RBG PAC, accounted for just a small fraction of his total political spending this year, which included $238 million to a super PAC he started and millions more to other GOP groups. In total, the richest person in the world plowed through more than $260 million into the 2024 election, making him likely the single largest individual political donor of the cycle. Musk's involvement with his group, America PAC, was well known, with the tech CEO appearing at events in swing states, posting about the super PAC on X, conducting very public sweepstakes, but RBG PAC and Musk's involvement in it was more secretive. He poured $20.5 million into the group on October 24th, which was not revealed until they filed a campaign finance report with the FEC late Thursday. The timing of the donation meant that Musk's support did not have to be disclosed until after the election, and neither he nor the group publicly touted his backing. RBG PAC spent nearly all of its money on advertising, its ads claiming Ginsburg, the liberal longtime justice and staunch women's rights advocate who died in 2020, was of one mind with Trump on the issue of abortion. Its website featured photos of Trump and Ginsburg with the caption, "Great minds think alike." Justices largely avoid speaking publicly about presidential politics, but Ginsburg's dying wish in 2020 was that she not be replaced on the court by Trump, her granddaughter said. Trump replaced her with Amy Coney Barrett shortly before the 2020 election. Barrett was in the judicial majority that voted to overturn Roe v. Wade 2 years later. The flurry of RBG PAC advertising came in the final weeks of this year's election, after Democrats spent months, years hitting Trump on the issue of abortion after the court led by justices he appointed overturned Roe, leading more than a dozen states to ban the procedure. Musk, who is poised to advise Trump under the banner of the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, became a major political player this year, endorsing Trump and appearing alongside him on the campaign trail. His spending was mostly in the presidential race, but he also dropped millions for down-ballot elections. His America PAC raised $232 million over the cycle. Its late spending push included nearly $41 million related to the petition the group circulated, with Musk promising $1 million giveaways to certain signers and smaller checks to others who referred voters to sign. The group also spent tens of millions on canvassing and mailers in the presidential race, and a few $1 million across more than a dozen House races. In late October, Musk also gave $3 million to a super PAC linked to RFK Jr. and $924,600 to Trump 47 Committee, his first direct donation to Trump's operation. That joint fundraising committee sends money to Trump's campaign, as well as the Republican National Committee and other GOP groups. Musk this year also previously gave $1 million to GOP-linked super PAC Early Vote Action and several $100,000 to a joint fundraiser committee affiliated with Representative Ken Calvert, Republican from California. Now, after reading all of this and just knowing that Elon Tusk spent so much money in America's elections, we have got to know that something nefarious is underfoot. We can see very clearly that, Trump is going to be a puppet of this person. It's going to be wild for the next few years. And Elon Tusk is going to be, it seems like he's going to be the puppeteer to Trump. Join the conversation. Let me know what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.